I'm joined by Samaras. He's former Labor advisor. He's a director at Redbridge Group and he's a regular on this program. Cos, great to see you. I noticed at the weekend you said that members of the coalition are kicking a dead horse, and I was intrigued by some of your analysis. Can you give our viewers a sense of what your read is at the moment on what's happening in federal politics?
Yeah, you'd think that after the May 3rd election result, there will be some soul searching, some assessment as to which constituencies did not vote for the coalition. They had their worst results since 1943. But what we've seen since then is not really any deep analysis of what went wrong, but more doubling down on a policy matrix, which clearly is not very popular in urban Australia. Now that matters because they've only got 10 seats in urban Australia, and that is, outside of Brisbane, if we actually remove Brisbane from that equation, they have 5 seats outside of Brisbane that are urban. So it's 14.5 million Australians. So it's pretty dire, and they're showing no signs of switching away from their current narrative. And it's also probably making Susan Lee's life very difficult.
Redbridge has mapped the shift in demography across the major cities in this nation. What have you found?
Yeah, look, since 2006, we've probably as a country experienced the most drastic changes demographically since colonisation. And so the changes are quite profound. We've got very significant numbers of diverse Australians now living in strategically important parts of the country. And look, they've historically voted for the coalition back in 2006, for example. The Chinese Australian community is a good illustration of that. They won seats like Chisholm in Victoria. But since then, that relationship between that community and the coalition has soured. And we've seen them lose Bennelong, Reid, Aston, Menzies. But then there's a whole range of other changes as well. We've talked at length, Karen, about the impact of millennials and Gen Z in this country. And of course, professional women.
Now, what do they need to do then? Because you see on the Labor side, the National Executive launching a review into their membership base after a big win. They've got 94 seats in the House of Reps, but they're trying to review their processes, know they've got things to improve on. What's happening and what does the Coalition and the Liberal Party need to do?
Yeah, look, I've obviously worked for the Labor side of politics, and when we would run campaigns that were successful, we still looked at what went wrong. And look, a lot of things still did not go right for the Labor camp, even though they won 94 seats, 35% primary vote. That means they're relying on a lot of preferences to get over the line in many seats. Now, those preferences are overwhelmingly made up of people from what we will define the millennial Gen Z generation. So that's obviously an advantage for them. But that's still very precariously balanced. The coalition, on the flip side, needs to do the same. It needs to actually say, okay, so what country are we now living in? It's not the same one that John Howard was governing in. And particularly those voices that are very loud right now that don't live in the 2 big states. They probably need to take a bit of a step back and allow their colleagues, like Alex Hawke, for example, in New South Wales, who know a bit about Sydney politics, to actually have more of a say of the direction of where the coalition goes into the future.
And in terms of the divide within their party as well, that's always so difficult, isn't it, Cos? Because as we've covered and reported on, and within a political party or outfit, disunity is death.
Yeah, look, I think we did probably underestimate just how influential Peter Dutton was in keeping that show together. If you contrast the opposition when he was running it to now, it's drastically different. And that's not, criticising Susan Lee in any way, shape or form, but he clearly managed to keep all those different voices, I would say, disciplined in one direction. And since their loss, they've been all over the place, and everyone's effectively freelancing their opinions all over the country. And it's going to have an impact, because Australians do pick up on different opinions, and opinions that some Australians might find very confronting.
Redbridge Group Director Samaras, thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.